What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, shout out to the subscriber, my Patreon, one of my patrons who requested this particular video, and it involves one of the probably one of the most popular and most discussed what if scenarios involving Scottie Pippen. Okay, and it involves the team that originally drafted him back in 1987. So in real life, for those of you a bit younger who don't know this, back in 1987 during the NBA draft day, Scottie Pippen was initially, or Scott Pippen as he was called, was drafted out of Central Arkansas by the Seattle Supersonics. But because of the fact that the Sonics had a glut of forwards at that time, Tom Chambers, Dale Ellis, who I recently wished happy birthday, 65th birthday to, and the X-Man, they didn't really need any more prospects at that position. At least that's what they felt. The Bulls did need a small forward. So there was a draft day trade where they traded their pick, Pippen, to the Bulls for the Bulls' initial pick, which I believe was Olden Polynice. And the rest, as we say, is history. Now, Olden Polynice was a decent player, but Scottie Pippen was, of course, ultimately a top 50-ish all-time player, 6 NBA championships, all defensive teams, arguably the greatest defensive small forward the game has ever seen. But what if Scottie Pippen was never traded to the Chicago Bulls? How would that have altered the Chicago Bulls franchise and the Seattle Supersonics? How would that have altered the careers of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen? Well, I guess in this scenario, you have to figure that the Sonics changed their mind because they saw potential in Scottie that they previously had not seen. And maybe they felt like, look, our tandem of Tom Chambers and Dale Ellis and Xavier McDaniel is good, but ultimately, it's not going to cut the mustard as far as our team advancing past, the top teams at that time, which were the Lakers, obviously. I guess Denver is up there too, the Mavericks. The Utah Jazz was starting to become a force with Stockton Malone by 87, 88. So, they keep Scottie Pippen. And I would say in this scenario, eventually they eventually get rid of all those guys. Tom Chambers, Xavier McDaniel, Dale Ellis. I think they got rid of Dale Ellis first, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, they do a rebuild. And of course, in this scenario, they still acquire Sean Kemp in 89, and they still acquire Gary Payton in 90. So let's say those things still happen. So I guess in this scenario, slowly but surely, they move away from the trio of Xavier McDaniel, Ellis, and Chambers, and wrap the team more around a trio of Pippen, Peyton, and Kemp. But I can't help but think, though, without the influence of Michael Jordan, I don't know if Scottie Pippen ever quite reaches the level of that he had been previously. When I say previously, I mean in real life, I should say. I don't know if because Michael Jordan, competing against Michael Jordan and being influenced by Michael Jordan, that had a lot to do with why Scottie Pippen peaked out and maxed out as much as he did as a basketball player. I can't help but think without Michael Jordan's influence and without Phil Jackson's influence, quite frankly, I don't see Scottie becoming the Scottie Pippen that we saw in the 90s. I think he would be still a guy. I think he would be an upgrade over Stacey Augmon. You know, I think he would still give you about 15 points a game. I think he'll still give you about 7 rebounds a game. His assist numbers I think would be higher. Playing in any system outside of the triangle. And I do think in some aspects, playing with the Sonics and playing with Gary Payton and playing with Sean Kemp, I do think in some aspects his game would be a more natural fit. Now that I think about it, I take that back. I think his scoring still would go a little bit higher. I think it would be a little higher. I don't think it'd be 15. I think his peak scoring probably would still be around 18, 19. Playing with that trio. That would make the Sonics a defensive juggernaut, number one. I mean, because you already got Gary Payton. You already got Derek McKee was on that team, right? You already got, what's his name? Shit. What was the guy's name? Led the league in steals in 1994, I think it was. Oh, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Head coach for the Hawks. Jesus, I'm in a brain fart like this. I can't remember the guy's name. Led the league in steals in 1994. I think he retired after 96 or 97. But anyway, you got him, you got Gary Payton, you got Derek McKee, now you got Scottie Pippen. Yeah, they will be a defensive, like one of perhaps the greatest defensive team we've ever seen in the history of the league. At that point, you know what I'm saying? So there's a good chance that they could go to an NBA Finals before 1996 and possibly win a championship in 96 at the Chicago Bulls' expense. I mean, it's possible. Now, I see some people say, oh, they'll win multiple championships. I don't know about that. I don't know. And the reason why I say I don't know is because I got to be fair here. In some ways, Scottie Pippen was an underachiever in the postseason. Never on the defensive end, but offensively, I don't know, man. Sometimes Scottie Pippen could be an underachiever. I thought Scottie Pippen was much more effective offensively in transition. Now, from time to time, Scottie, could nail a banker. He could sometimes get the mid-range shot going. He'll hit the occasional three. Matter of fact, Scottie's one of the first guys I ever saw to shoot the transition three and weaponize it. He was one of the first. He might have been the first guy to do that. But the problem was Scottie was so streaky shooting, man, that sometimes he would hurt the team doing it. And I know because I watched the Chicago Bulls, and he would sometimes hurt them doing that. Now, ultimately, the Bulls were so damn good that they wouldn't have let Scottie do it too often. But anyway, as far as Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls are concerned, without a Scottie Pippen, I mean, I think that they would still try to get talent around Michael. But if it's not the right core type of talent around him, I don't know if they would have the same type of success. Scottie was the right type of player to be that sidekick. You know what I'm saying? That complimentary player who did not necessarily need to shoot the ball a lot to be effective, and was great at being a secondary scorer, comfortable being a secondary scorer, but more importantly, was that second defensive punch to the gut that the Bulls put out there every single night that helped to elevate their chances of winning on a nightly basis. Without that, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be a guy that could be similar, in my opinion. And maybe, one guy that comes to mind, if he were with the Bulls organization and he never had the same personal issues, the drinking and the drugs, if he could have gotten the tutelage of Michael Jordan and never had those issues, one guy that comes to mind is Richard Dumas. But that's a very risky player. But I remember Richard Dumas getting those Scottie Pippen comparisons. But I don't know. Like I said, I think without Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan doesn't win as many championships. But without Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen doesn't win as many championships. And I guess the only thing that I can see that could have had an effect on the Sonics too is I wonder if they had that type of success in the 90s and maybe even into the early 2000s being a perennial contender, does that prevent or does it delay that franchise folding in Seattle? I do wonder that. But damn, excuse me. Jesus. I had some yogurt earlier. Shit. I haven't done that video in a while. Damn. Shit came from out of nowhere. But like Barney off fucking The Simpsons. Hey, hold up. But anyway. Yeah, in conclusion, I don't know if Scottie would be the same Scottie Pippen, but I think he'd be effective. Very, very effective. And, I'm just thinking about him playing with Sean Kemp because, one thing about that team, if you think about it, Gary Payton, Sean Kemp, Scottie Pippen, those are three guys who are not what we would call ball hoggers. You know what I'm saying? So on any given night, one of them could get you 20 to 25, maybe 30 points in a night. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard to game plan for that offensively. And we know what they could do, but you don't know exactly how they're going to attack every time. Especially after Gary Payton developed offensively as a player by the mid-90s. Now, the Sonics would not have been a great three-point shooting team, I guess. But, that didn't really matter back in the 90s as much as it does today. The Bulls still trying to think about how they would operate, man, without a Scottie Pippen. I mean, because if everything else still the same, they got Phil Jackson. I mean, they're still going to need somebody else, man. They're going to need some other scoring punch, and I'm trying to think of somebody else out there. Um, one guy that comes to mind is Glenn Rice, but Glenn Rice, I don't see him having the same natural tools to be a great defender, but he could be a great scorer, elevated playing with Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? I could see Michael's, you know what I'm saying? I could see Jordan I could see that a little bit, but, you know, Glenn Rice, I don't know if he is, I don't know. Like I said, Glenn was a great scorer, but I don't see Glenn excelling on the defensive end of the floor. He just wasn't the most limber and the quickest guy out there. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to think of somebody in the late 80s that could replace Scottie, or you try to replace him with. I don't know. I know I've always thought that if you put Dominique Wilkins on the Chicago Bulls, that would be a dynasty. I think I've done videos talking about that. But that teaming up with superstars thing, that really wasn't a thing back then. But anyway, tell me what you guys think.